Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing? I hope everyone is doing well. How's it going? What's happening? Listen, it's a great day here on the East Coast. How's everybody out there? I hope that you're having a good Monday. Thank you for stopping by the Counseling Corner. My name is Sheila Ingram, and I am here to be with you to help move you from pain to power and from power to victory, right? Because you know what I always say, when nothing changes, nothing changes. So in order for there to be a change, there has to be a shift, there has to be movement, there has to be a decision made. Something has to change in order to get change. I don't know why we think change is going to happen if we don't do anything to cause a change, right? I mean, changing causes us to put a one foot in front of the other and to sit and ponder and make some decisions, right? Change is something that we don't like to do. You know, we don't really enjoy changing or making a change. Sometimes it's hard to change. Sometimes it's hard to make decisions. But listen, let's change together. Let's do it together. Together we can make a change because I heard you, when nothing changes, nothing changes. And tonight we're going to continue to talk about things that will cause us to sit and ponder with ourselves and to share information, right? Share information. If the sound is okay, I have a little hiss in my ear. If everything is okay with the sound, those of you that are in the chat, could you put a 1 in the chat if the sound is okay? All right, Ashan. Hello. I am good tonight. How are you? I just love your heart. I just love your heart for the people, just like mine. Thank you, Arshan. Thank you so much. So tonight, we're going to chat a little bit. You know, we've been talking about so many things that I think that are very important to us as a people. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, or whatever your color is, we all bleed the same. It's about being healthy on the inside and doing the work and recognizing some of the things that kind of creep up in us and we don't know exist, right? And some things we can't even put a finger on. We can't identify it. And I always say, in order to crucify it, we have to identify it, because if we identify it, then we can put a finger on it and begin to approach it and to rip it apart, shred it apart so that we can be free, because so many people are living and in this vessel, in this body, but they're in prison. They're in their own imprisonment. You don't see the bars, but the bars are there. The bars are there, and people can't break free from these bars, right? And it's an invisible thing that people go through. And I'm always interested in those who go through things that are invisible. That means if they're invisible, that means people suffer in silence, or they just don't understand what's going on. Sometimes we just look at the obvious things that, that we know about, the obvious things like the word depression, or, certain words that are so obvious to us, but there's so many hidden pockets of things that we don't know about and that we need to understand about in order to get a handle on our emotions, to get a handle on our lives, and to get a handle on our mental, because it's about the mindset, right? Because if the wrong things rest and live and camp out in our head, that thing travels down. Once it gets up here, it does a whole movement thing till it travels down to your what? Your emotions, to your soulish nature, and then you're off in a tangent because it stayed too long up in here. We pondered on that thing that wasn't positive too long. We have to learn how to dispute it, right, with something positive. We have to dispute thoughts with something. We have to trade it. In my Christian channel, I always say we have to trade our sorrows, right? I'm trading my sorrow, right, for what? Praise. I'm trading my sorrows for the joy. I'm trading it. Yes. So we need to understand that we have the opportunity and the power to trade off something that is trying to lock us down. We can trade off things that try to hold us hostage, right? And people think that a physical prison is something we see, and that's not necessarily true. We know what a jail cell looks like, we know what that looks like. We know those are bars that you can't get free from. But there's so many people walking around with those invisible bars that others can't see, and we perpetrate a lot, right? We wear different masks, right, for fear of rejection, for fear of the unknown, for fear of people finding out, certain things that we're going through because of an image or whatever. And I know in these YouTube streets, I know I'm new to the streets, what, going on 2 years, but I've learned so much by just traveling through the streets and looking at different content and looking at different platforms and topics, and learning about the manosphere, and learning about all the things that I didn't know about until I got into the YouTube streets. And so I have, different mixed emotions. I've learned a lot. I'm older than a lot of the guys and the girls that are in these streets and on these platforms. So I see through different lenses, right? But I try to stay up to date, right? One thing about me, I don't want to ever become obsolete in what's going on. And so things have changed and shifted. But for me, the passion that I have is one for music. Most of you know I've been in the music business over 30 something years, traveled all over the world singing and still doing my thing, got around 6 or 7 different independent projects. That passion has been in me since I can remember. That purpose woke up in me as a young girl. But then I have this passion for people. I love people. I love sharing with people. I love hearing people's stories. I love helping people get to from a broken place to a whole place, because I myself have been broken many times, right? Broken pieces. Hey, my daughter, Leslie Tuckett, my spiritual daughter's on. Thanks for being here. Thank you, sweetie. And, I have walked through so many things, so many things. And, I've walked from pain to power and from power to victory, right? But I had to do the work. I had to turn the finger on me and stop being a finger pointer, right? I had to learn how to sit in when I needed to sit in without the voices coming from the outside trying to size me up and tell me what they thought I was and how I got to a broken place, right? So we have to identify with ourselves. We have to own up to what it is that we're responsible for, so that we can break through these invisible chains and these invisible bars that people around you don't even know that exist in you. And I find in these streets, these YouTube streets, my kids and family, like, what you doing in them YouTube streets? I said, I'm in these streets. I am learning. I'm sharing. I'm understanding some things about the new generation that I have no connection with, right? So I'm open to hearing things, and then I'm staying sober at mine, so that I can really kind of separate and filter certain things out. And like, nah, but there's so much to learn. When they started talking about modern day women, and then the manosphere and the women and the men, and it's the combating and all these different things, that I'm like, okay, let me sit and just chill out, sometimes support and be in the chat, and say comments from time to time, even being invited on certain platforms. If it's not for me, I just won't go because of the invitation. I know I have to fit to be able to contribute to what the invitation is asking me to contribute to. And you have to understand that every time you get an invitation, that doesn't mean you're supposed to go. Is that what God is saying? Is that where you need to be? Will you be an asset, or are you going to complement it? Are you going to drop something that somebody can embrace, right? Is there going to be resolution when you go and talk with different people about different topics? And so I know for me, I love to support the channels and love to support folks, but I do know how to hold them and fold them. I do know where I'm supposed to be and where I'm not supposed to be. Everyone in these streets and people in general that have a goal, whether it's their corporate jobs or whether it's their goals that they have in their personal life. They know where they're trying to reach, they know what they're trying to attain. And that's very important to understand your assignment, to get that memo, to understand the assignment of what you're called to, because there's a people called to each and every one of you. Every single one of us, there's a person or people called to you for a specific thing, because we all have greatness inside of us and we all have something to give. We do. If you've lived and you've survived and you've walked through some things, you've gotten some jewels. Like I tell my children, I used to tell them all the time, take the jewels and leave the junk, because I'm human, right? But there's something that you can give. You can give, you can give, you can give. And so you have to be so mindful of where you are and where you spread yourself, right? And there's no pun intended. It's not being rude. It's just knowing that whenever you go somewhere, you want to be able to drop what God has given you to drop, or what's in your heart to drop for mankind in general, right? Because you guys know, yes, I'm a believer, but you know I'm not in a bubble, right? I'm not in that Christian bubble. I'm not in a bubble. I am grounded. I'm balanced as a believer, and my experience with God calls me to speak what I speak to, right? And to be so solid on my relationship with Him, right? Everyone has their own experience, but I do know how to pull out of that zone and talk to people at large. I'm not one that will ever push anything on you, right? Because belief system is belief system. And tonight we're going to talk on another level of how a belief system can be tainted or it can be distorted. And it's about you, it's about me, it's about how we translate certain information about ourselves. And tonight we're talking about the imposter syndrome. And the last few weeks that we were talking about some wonderful things. You can go back on the channel and check it out. And so we're going to set a foundation to talk about the imposter syndrome. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to go to some people who have studied it and give you some types of a percentage or numbers or what they did in a certain study. But we're going to set the tone and the foundation of the imposter syndrome, right? Some folks like said, well, what is that? Well, it's a deep thing, right? And you may be doing this or have done this with yourself and never was able, like I said, if you can't identify it, you can't crucify it. But when we put a label on certain things that we're dealing with, not the obvious stuff, the depression, trauma is always present. But when we talk about things that bring a light, Oprah goes, aha, I go, oh. When I see someone, when I'm counseling and they go, oh, I know they got it. I know they got that thing, because when I was in counseling some 30 something years ago, and as I sat and when I was sitting and I said, oh, that's that's why I do what I do or don't do what I don't do. And it was a bittersweet moment because I had spent so much time traveling through the pain of it. But then when I reached that place called there, and then I said, aha, I got the answer. Now I know how to tweak my behavior. Now I know how to learn about Sheila. Because if you don't understand how you're wired, you'll continue to allow people to size you up, and you'll continue to be confused. So we have to understand the strengths and weaknesses and embrace the whole body, embrace the whole package, right? There's no shame in your game. You are who you are. You're wired the way you're wired. You've gone through what you've gone through, and here you are today where we are, right? And so that's why I say when nothing changes, nothing changes. When that came, that word, I've been saying that I don't know how many years, because that's what woke me up. Those words woke me up to the point that I was like, that sounds so simple, but Sheila, that is so real. That is so real. So you're going to just sit there, or you're going to make just an inch of a change, or you're going to just shift a little bit or pivot. In that pivot and in that shift is a new world. It's a new breathing, right? And a new understanding. So that's what I want to offer every time I come before you, whether I'm on this channel or the SIM broadcast channel. I want to offer hope. I want to offer change. I want to offer no condemnation. I want to offer freedom and liberty to be and live the way you were wired, in the creative force of who you are, without the voices in your head of what you did, didn't do, how you did it wrong. Listen, turn the voices off. Just turn the voices off. So let's jump into it. Good evening to all of you up in the bleachers, the balcony, or you maybe have the expensive ticket in the orchestra seat. Hello, how are you? I hope that you hit that thumbs up on the way in. You don't necessarily have to be in the chat. I'm just glad you're here. Those of you in the chat, thank you for being here. My spiritual daughter, Leslie Tuckett, is in the house. Sean, the great content creator, is in the house. Lady Nia, I'm not messing up her name. I'm going to cut it and give her grace with Lady Nia. I done switched it up on you. So listen, we're going to jump into this and we're going to set this foundation and we're going to just move forward. Tomorrow, I'll be talking about the imposter syndrome in intimate relationships. How does that show up? How in the world? See, that's what I'm saying. A lot of times these conversations go forth and we're quick to put a label on it, or we're quick to say, she's a, what's those numbers again in the chat? Y'all know I'm kind of old, 403, 408, whatever. I don't like it. I don't like it. You don't know how a person got to where they are. You don't know how they're traveling in their life. You don't know what the hidden stuff is that causes them. Lady, you're a lady. Just hidden things that cause them to behave the way they behave. You don't know how they're silently suffering, especially women, men as well. But women's behavior is a little different from men, although we behave, both of us have this off behavior. I call it offness, right? But we are all in our not yetness. I want you to say that. I'm in my not yetness. You're forever evolving. Yes, you are. And so the imposter syndrome is people who struggle with imposter. Here we go. We're going to set up the foundation. You know, I'm right here. Those of you that know me, even from the Christian channel to right here, I'm right here with you, to my notes right here. On the other channel, I'll say I'm right here to my notes in the word. But there's no word tonight because we're on the other side of the YouTube street on Bravo. All right. So people who struggle with imposter syndrome believe that they are undeserving of their achievements and the high esteem in which they are, in fact, generally held. Whoa. They feel that they aren't as competent or intelligent as others might think that they are. People will discover the truth about them, like I'm a fake, I'm a fraud, I'm not real. God bless you. Sir Hale is in the house. And so this imposter syndrome, right? Tonight we're talking about it as a whole, right? We're setting it up. Tomorrow we're going to talk about imposter syndrome in intimate relationships because it shows up. So here we go. Those with imposter syndrome, which is not an official diagnosis. So I don't want you to think this is in the DSM. It's not. It's not counted as a mental health issue or diagnosis, I should say. So it's not an official diagnosis, and it often is accomplished, and they may hold high office or have numerous academic degrees. These are people who feel like, they could have, gone to the high letter in corporate. They've been maybe a teacher. You could be a housewife, anything. But and people are celebrating you. But in your mind, in you, the imposter it breaks down to you that you are not that, and you begin to believe it. Understanding imposter syndrome. Why do people with imposter syndrome feel like frauds, even though there is an abundance of evidence of their success? That's a question. Instead of acknowledging their capabilities as well as their efforts, why do they think that? They often, attribute their accomplishment to external or transient causes, the outer things. Oh, yeah, they do that. Such as they say things like this. Oh, that was just luck. Oh, that was just good timing. Taking the total effort that they made this thing happen, they just diminish it, or effort that they cannot regularly expend. So whether in the area of academic achievement or career success, a person can struggle with pressure and personal expectation. That perfectionist. Are you a perfectionist? Am I talking to you that no matter what you do is not enough? What am I talking to you tonight? What causes imposter syndrome? I'm glad you asked me. Personal traits largely drive imposter syndrome, right? Those who experience it, they struggle with perfectionism and neuroticism And competitive environments can also lay the groundwork. That can also lay the groundwork. For example, many people, listen, who go on to develop feelings of imposterism face intense about pressure about academic achievement from their parents in childhood. Stop, pause, reflect. Stop. Sometimes we don't know what we're doing with our children. We think we're just saying, oh, you're going to do this. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be this. You're going to be that. Right there, we're putting that in there. We're planning, not saying we're not supposed to raise the bar and give our children the opportunity to grow. But if I know many parents who drill it and drill it and drill it, that child doesn't even have the opportunity to bask in who they really are. So the intense pressure about academic achievement from their parents in childhood. So how common is imposter syndrome? Around 25 to 30% of high achievers may suffer from imposter syndrome, and around 70% of adults may experience imposterism at least once in their lifetime, right? So at some point you've gone through this, you might have gone through. So what triggers it? What triggers imposter syndrome? Let's look at a couple of these questions here that I have. What triggers it? Why is my calling attention to one's success ironically can unleash feelings of imposter syndrome, okay? This could occur when receiving an award, passing an exam, or being promoted. Failure after a string of successes can also cause someone to critique, listen, and question their overall aptitude after they've achieved it, after they've gone through it, after they've got the prize, they got the trophy, they got the degree. Can you be diagnosed with imposter syndrome? The answer is no. Imposter syndrome is not an official psychiatric diagnosis in the DSM. I said that earlier. People with imposter syndrome may struggle with other mental health conditions, right? Because it can be a dual thing, such as what? Anxiety, depression. But I heard you, but an individual couldn't be diagnosed as having imposter syndrome. This is a conversation that's been going on and on and on, and they're still talking about this. And this is a huge conversation that many are having. They're doing a lot of surveys and research. Are women more likely to experience imposter syndrome? That's a question. I'm so glad you asked me. Imposter syndrome was first documented in high achieving women in the 1970s. While imposter syndrome is still more prevalent among women, and specifically women of color, men are also skeptical to developing this mindset. How does perfectionism, this is important, influence imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome can be closely related to perfectionism. Anybody out there just feel like, oh, I didn't do it right? It can be as close as you can get it to, but you're trying to reach and attain a goal that is unattainable. It's unattainable, right? But with people sometimes, like they drive themselves, in which people feel pressure to perform at their absolute best 100% all of the time. And when they don't, they feel incompetent. And then they get anxious, right? It's helpful, although difficult, listen, for people to change the way they view perfection to combat imposter syndrome. With imposter syndrome, it's not something they even say you should go to a counselor or a therapist or anything like that. They're saying this is work that you have to do on your own. So there are things in life when we say do the work. There are some things that a psychiatrist can help you with, a therapist can help you with, a counselor can help you with. But then there's those moments and those things that you have to do the work. In other words, stop sabotaging, what you are. Stop pushing yourself to attain something that's unattainable. See yourself through the lens of who you really are, right? And that takes work, intentional work. Why do I fear success? Many times people fear success, being caught between desire to flourish and fear of achieving success. That's real. That's a real feeling. That can be a real battle. Fear of achieving success can be painful and paralyzing. It can stop you, cause you not to move. It can cause you to move, but move slow. This is all this mental. I tell you, this mindset up here, you got to dispute it. You got to dispute the negativity thoughts. I'm telling you that fear may be indicative of specific fears, such as the fear of responsibility. Have you ever felt that? The fear of responsibility when people have babies, when people, are becoming new parents, they automatically, I'm not a good parent. Everyone's saying, you're doing a great job. No, I'm not. I watch you all day long with the baby. No, I'm not. The fear, it's a fear of responsibility. I'm not capable. I don't think I can handle this. Think about it. I want you guys to think about this. Can go across the board, making a mistake. Oh my God, make a mistake. Someone who's a perfectionism, they make a mistake. They beat themselves up. They have guilt for forever. They don't know how to release themselves from those chains and those invisible bars. They're captive on the inside. They're prisoner to themselves. Listen, uncertainty on identity shift. Learning to tolerate discomfort and accept imperfection can help overcome the fears that prevent people from striving for success. So you see, this is something that you have to really take authority over with yourself. This is something that you can help yourself with, your sisters, your friends, people that you could really talk to walk you through this, because this is not per se, because remember, depression and anxiety and trauma can couple with it or precipitate it, right? But it's not the foundation of it. Overcoming imposter syndrome involves changing a person's mindset. Say mindset. I heard you, about their own abilities. Let me say it again to you. Overcoming imposter syndrome involves changing a person's mindset about their own abilities. Imposters feel like they don't belong. They feel like, they can be the smartest person. They can have degrees. They can have everything plastered on their door, on their walls, and people come in and think that they know what they're contributed. And that person who have attained all of this, whether you've gotten a job as a nurse, whether you've got the job, that your corporate job, whatever you're doing, whether you're a housewife, whatever, you're minimizing who you are. You're not taking credit to yourself because you don't see yourself there. So it's the abilities, right? And it reminds people that they earn their place, listen, in the academic or professional environment. It reminds them of that, but it doesn't solidify within them with that belief system. People should stay focused, listen to me, on measuring their own achievements. Measure your achievements instead of comparing themselves to others. That's another problem that we do. We compare ourselves with what someone has at a certain age that you didn't get. You compare yourself with what letters is behind somebody else's name. You went to college, you dropped out. You come see, once you start doing that comparing, what do you think is going to happen internally to you? Similar to perfectionists, people with imposterism often put a lot of pressure on themselves to complete every task flawlessly. That is crazy pressure. Everything got to be right. Everything have to be perfect, because it has to be. I have to feel like it's 100% right. You have to allow yourself to fail. You have to allow yourself to make mistakes. Mistakes are what we do. They're not who we are. Do not identify with it. You did it. You learn from it. You take the jewels. You get up and you keep it moving. The task is flawless. They want flawlessness. They fear that any mistake, listen, will reveal to others that they aren't as good or smart enough for the job. Many people suffer in silence with this imposter syndrome. They perpetrate this excessive pressure because they believe that without the discipline, listen, they won't succeed. And instead of rewarding themselves, they only worry about what? The next task. Oh, I got to get to the next task because, okay, I finished that. How am I going to get to the next task? And how am I going to complete the next task? Superfood parents in the house. Hey, sis, so glad to see you. The cycle can be hard to break, but part of doing so involves reminding yourself reminding that no one is perfect. Absolutely no one is perfect, and that a person can only do their personal best. You can only do your best. Say that. I can only do my best. Imposter syndrome, listen what it can do. It's important to fight it. It's a battle. It's like how I talk about how the spirit and the soul is in the ring, and they're contending, and the soul wants to knock the spirit out. The soul wants to deplete your strength in the spirit. The soul wants to remind you of what you did, how you did it, how you didn't do it. The soul is talking to this thing up here. The soul is reminding you. Remember, Sheila? You remember you didn't do that right? Remember, oh, there you go again, Sheila. That's soulish nature. But I tell you, it's a contending. The spirit's got to shut down the voice of the soul, because as your spirit evolves and you get healed and whole, right, then you begin to soar. But as long as that contending and you're not fighting against it, and you just, oh me, woe is me, how will you make it through those bars? How will you break free? So the imposter syndrome can stifle the potential for growth and meaning. Did you hear me? By preventing people, you and I, from pursuing new opportunities for growth at work, number one, in relationships. Tomorrow we're going to hit that. The relationships, what happens when women and men get in each other's lives and they got this secret imposter on the inside, and everybody's thinking it's something else, when all the time it's the secret imposter syndrome breaking down everything. Preventing people from pursuing new opportunities for growth at work, in relationships, or around their hobbies, right? If you're an athlete, right? Confronting imposter syndrome can help people continue to grow and thrive. Oh my goodness, to grow and thrive. How do you overcome it? Reflecting on your concrete achievements, sharing your feelings with loved ones, right? But I want to move now. I want to move to give you a little pointers before we end this. I want to talk about the, what do I want to give you? Do I want to do this, or do I want to do something else? Yeah, I want to talk about this for a minute. And then we're going to talk tomorrow about relationships with the imposter syndrome. And so this what I'm talking about now, what I've moved to is the people who have studied this, the psychologists, and the paper trails that they have left and learned by studying people with this imposter syndrome. And before we do that, I need to say thank you to a couple of people. So we're going to take a pause for the course before we jump into this, and then we'll be done. A pause for the course. And I just want to really put this up because people have been so kind to me, and they continue to help me grow and to help me move forward. And so let's just put this up a little bit. I'm learning how to put all these things up, but I definitely wanted to do this tonight. So let's just thank some folks. I just want to say thank you to Lady Nia, and for your generosity, to Russell Huggins, who have sold, and Superfood Parents, who have sold a lot into my life. I thank you. Bravo to all of you. Soon I'll put some music to it and you'll be able to groove a little bit on it. But thank you so much. Those of you that want to help, you can continue to Zelle or just drop by the PayPal or do what you do. And I just thank you so very much. Those of you who have been given. I want to put this up real quick. I hope that this works. This is the first time I'm doing this, but I've been being trained. So let's see if this will happen. Let's see if I can get this to start. I don't know. I don't know if I can do this. Let's see. It's not starting for me. I don't know what I did wrong, Superfood. Let's see. Oh, here we go.
Roll out with Roll Java. Calling all coffee lovers, wake up to the aroma of happiness with RollJava.com. Our coffee is super yummy and brings smiles to everyone's faces. Plus, your purchase helps create awesome storytime productions by Atsukan Edutainment. It's a win-win. Grab your coffee now and join the fun.
All right. I did it. Okay. Awesome. That's right. Superfood Parents. Listen, it used to be Blind Guys, my wife their life, and they have switched lanes and did a pivot, and now it's a food channel, and she is doing a great job with incredible food. She's cooking, she's doing stuff. I'm gonna continue to support her and do those commercials. I'm gonna get better with it, superfood. But I just wanted to do that. Those of you who are interested, I'll get more information as I continue. I can leave it up and put it on the banner so you can see it streaming by, about how you can get that wonderful coffee. They say New Yorkers say coffee, and they say people from other places say coffee. I don't know how you say it, but they say every time they say your New York accent, I said, we don't have an accent. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So yeah, they coffee, and they say it's coffee. Either way, I'm going to get more information for you so that you'll be able to get some of this incredible coffee that Superfood Parents is selling. They're helping parents and households and children to eat healthy and whole plant-based meals. And so all her recipes, she's cooking up a storm right in front of you, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on YouTube streets. We also have Sir Hale in the house. I want you to go and check out his channel. And we also have our Sean in the house. Our Sean's channel is drinking, drinking, critically drinking. Yes, critically drinking. I'll be on his channel tomorrow at 3 p.m. Let's look at some of these comments before we go forward. We go forward. Or Sean is saying, you teaching just the unreasonable expectation. Oh my goodness. You are such a wonderful brother. I love your spirit and your heart. I love your spirit and your heart. And I got Lady Nia here. I done changed the name. And Superfood Parents saying, thank you for the love. I love you. You love me. Oh my goodness, you love me. You are making great strides, Sheila. Keep growing. Oh, thank you so much. I am doing my best. So before we jump into the finale and the final, wait, I want to read this. I missed this comment of Sir Hill. Very true. It has been said that imposter syndrome only happens to people who are striving because they are always evolving. They don't grasp all they are or what they have become. I see that. So true. So true. Correct. Yeah, but they have to stop and embrace. Stop, pause, reflect, and embrace, and understand that the very thing they're striving for will be the very thing that causes them not to, move forward, because of the expectation. Yes, critically drinking. Okay, yes. I'll be with him tomorrow at 3 p.m. on his channel. So go over and subscribe to his channel. And yeah. So before we do that, before we end, just let me add something to the screen as a recap. The imposter syndrome in your life, recognizing imposter syndrome is the first step towards overcoming it and achieving your full potential. Your full, not your half potential, not your little bitty itty potential, because you got more than little bitty itty, and not little itty bitty any in you or in me. And then what is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is feeling inadequate and doubting your abilities despite evidence of success. Overcome it by acknowledging your achievements and seeking support. This is what that comment that Sir Hell said a few minutes ago. Signs of imposter syndrome. Feeling like a fraud. You feeling like a fraud? You're not alone. Recognize self-doubt, perfectionism, and fear of failure. Identify skills and strengths to overcome it. It is in you. It is in you. I said it is in you already. How do I overcome it? Acknowledge. That word is so important. Acknowledge your feelings. Then do what? Reframe it. Just take it on out the frame and put it in another frame that it fits in. Reframe negative thoughts. Get rid of them. Kick them to the curb. Because purpose will kick. Well, I tell you right now, purpose will kick death to the curb. Purpose will kick death to the curb. I said that. Focus on your accomplishments and seek support from trusted friends and mentors to break free. Break free now. Trusted. Don't go talking to people who got a chatterbox mouth. Trusted friends, personal experiences. Remember, we're talking about is even molding children. Recognize negative self-talk. You know, we say death and life is in the power of the tongue. You better speak life over you. Trade those words for some life talk over you. Recognize negative self-talk and what? Reframe it. I heard you into positive what? Affirmations. I am who God says I am. I have the ability to go forward. I have achieved these degrees. I did work hard to obtain what they do belong to me. All right. Focus on your strength. Focus on your strength. Conclusion. Stop comparing yourself to others and embracing your unique talents and strengths, and believe yourself and trust your abilities. Come on now, let's get with this. Thank you for listening to me. And remember, you are capable and deserving of your success. Did you hear me? You are capable and deserving of your success. Now let's bring this to a close. Let me just give you a couple of more pointers and then we're out of here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I so appreciate you. I really appreciate you. We went through a lot of this, and let's talk a little bit from the perspective of these psychologists. They said, despite your accomplishments that others may see clearly, you don't internalize them or believe that you're as competent as you are. That's just the enemy talking to you. Let me get in the deepness of what it is. It's the wrong voice. It's the wrong voice trying to block and stop and solidify that voice. Turn the voices off. Now, they say that I wish more people understood that imposter phenomenon, that's another word for it, is not a mental disorder, right? And so the University of Diversity and Social Transformation professor, why people call me when they know I'm live? Why do they do that when they know I'm live? Let me see, the researchers who have focused on studying the phenomenon, although people commonly refer to it as a syndrome, he says the term is misleading, right? And while it might also sound like it's about self-esteem and can be related to it, it's not the same thing. Low self-esteem is an overall general assessment of one's self-worth. This is what the PhD Laura Park says, a professor of psychology at SUNY Buffalo, who researches this topic. People with low self-esteem feel inferior to others and do not think very highly of themselves on a global level, right? So imposter feelings are specific. Listen, they're specific to competence, she explains. They reflect, right, your concerns about being found out. I'm a fake. I'm a fraud. They're going to find out I'm not really, who I say I am. They're going to find out that I met you. It's all a lie. It's about you changing your mind about what you think about yourself, what you say about yourself, and believe what it is about you that has already been proven to you. So you are what? Breaking down the very thing that you've achieved and spent hours, sleepless nights, taking tests. They reflect this, right? So then imposter feelings are different from having an inferiority complex, okay? Which is broader than competence, right? And essentially chronic low self-esteem across all aspects of your life. So imposter syndrome is about doubting your competence in relation to specific things like your job or your role as a spouse or your role as a parent. You're never good enough. You're just trying to be so perfect. Is imposter syndrome a mental health diagnosis? Real quickly, despite the name, imposter syndrome is not currently considered a syndrome or diagnosis for mental health experts. Some researchers prefer to use the term imposter feelings or imposter phenomenon, right? What does imposter syndrome feel like? You say, what it feel like, Sheila? What does it feel like? Imposter syndrome can feel similar to anxiety and often involves the worry that you'll be found out to be a fraud in a particular area, such as your career. Imposter syndrome. This old enemy of ours. Yeah, we're going to kick it to the curb. Is imposter syndrome just low self-esteem, you ask? Imposter syndrome is different from low self-esteem. Though low self-esteem, listen, may contribute to someone having imposter feelings, but whereas low self-esteem means you don't think highly of yourself overall, but imposter syndrome is about doubting your competence in a particular area, such as work or school, such as a YouTube content creator, such as a housewife, such as you just go ahead and dot it. Go ahead. That little monster will try to creep up in anything that you're doing to let you know you ain't really real. You don't really know much about what you're talking about. All right. And then it's even worse when you find people on the opposite side of the street that now have their own motives that want to now challenge you on what you say you know, because now they're there for what? The wrong reason, to break you down, to make you look like a fool, to make you look like you shouldn't be in this position. You got to be careful who's in your circle. You got to be careful where you go. You got to be careful who you allow to speak in your ear and to confirm or to give you information, because everybody's motive, you got jealous motives. You got people that come in with an agenda because you on YouTube. You could have 5 subscribers and somebody will come and be jealous of you with your 5 subscribers. Guess what? They're not jealous of the subscribers. They're jealous of you. So let's mask that you on you. Listen, I can go on and on. The imposter syndrome is not just about low self-esteem. I'm coming to a close, guys. Do successful people feel imposter syndrome? People who have been told by others that they are good at what they do and who have external markers of success, such as a promotion or an award, often have imposter feelings. And I'm sure it doesn't help with the haters and the naysayers when you're struggling with this. They worry that they're not as capable as what others seem to think. So they already come doubting. They got a good front. But they're coming already doubting. So this is something that we have to, when it creeps up, because it'll knock on your door. Don't think it won't knock on your door. It will knock on your door. Is imposter syndrome a trauma response? We're going to end it here, I believe, because we've been on long enough. Personal trauma may contribute to someone experiencing imposter feelings. Not everyone with past trauma will experience imposter syndrome, and not everyone who feels like an imposter has experienced trauma. I heard you said say it again. You said say it again, didn't you? All right, I got you. Personal trauma may contribute to someone experiencing imposter feelings. Not everyone with past trauma will experience imposter syndrome, and not everyone who feels like an imposter has experienced trauma. I think that's it. I think we hit everything. I don't need to go any further because there's various forms of oppression, but I do want to add that this racism, let me just add this little piece. Various forms of oppression, such as racism and sexism, can affect how people of color and women experience imposter. Listen, so she would argue these inequalities, right? She's talking about eliminating all forms of oppression, right? And they give the example of someone of another persuasion. Let me see if I can find that note. Eliminating all forms of oppression would necessarily eliminate the existence of imposter phenomenon altogether. So she says they don't have a lot of data to support the idea totally, right? But she's also saying, she's been arguing that what others are arguing are not that individuals have marginalized identities tend to experience, listen, imposter feelings a bit differently than people who are not marginalized. This is what I want to end with. When a white man experiences imposter feelings, it's likely isn't tied to the world making him feel inferior, due to his identity as a white man. But when marginalized individuals report feeling like imposters, it's usually because of some cues in the environment that cause them to question their deservingness to be there, their capabilities, their competence. Often that's tied to what? The skin color. Mhm. She says, but could also be tied to gender and other social identity. It's not that marginalized individuals are more likely to experience imposter feelings, it's that the nature of imposter feelings tend to be connected with more external environment cues related to being oppressed. So even people of color have dealt with this on a whole nother spectrum because of all of the rejection and all of the you're not this, yeah, you're a doctor, but you still that, yeah, you're a nurse, yeah, you're still that, you're still not good enough, you still, you've got taint and everything. This thing can roll over and knock on anybody's door. The trauma and the anxiety and everything that comes along with this, I tell you, I had a good time tonight talking to you. It has been good. And I pray and hope that you had a nice time here with me. This imposter syndrome is deep. We have to do so much work with ourselves daily because there's so many things that hit us. I don't care who you are, what you did, what your title is. Look, let's take off the titles. Talking about you as a person that bleed like me, that cry like me, right? That feels. I'm talking about the deepness, not what you do, who you are. People always do that muddy thing because you are this and that. They cross it over like, oh, they don't know who you are. They just know what you do. No, got to separate that. Don't let people just put you in one little thing. There is a you in here, right? Not what you do. And so we have to constantly be aware of how we're feeling. You have to sit with yourself and monitor you and manage yourself. You have to realize that I got to stop using the word have to. It would be nice for you to sit with yourself and check in with yourself and see what you're feeling and see when you're off and figure out, why am I off? Why do I feel like this? What's going on with me? Don't ignore it because you're so busy. Just get in tune with yourself. Let me put some of these comments up. I see people are really chatting. I like the chat. I like it. 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 I stopped at Superfood Parents. And let's see, she's talking to Arshawn. Do your thing at Arshawn. I look forward to your interview with Sheila tomorrow. Yes, I love him. He is such a quiet, wonderful, deep young man. Deep young man. I said, you gotta be gentle with me. I'm not used to you guys. Y'all on a whole nother age bracket and all this stuff. Let's just roll and flow. And he said, I got you. I got you. He said, I got you. And so, oh, my spiritual daughter, my dear daughter, thank you, sweetie. I love you too. Trust is important. Yes, it is, Lady Nina. And the Super Four, let's see what she says here. She says, I started trading words, struggle, and problems are no longer in my vocabulary. I have opportunity. Yes, that's it right there. She started trading. I told you, got to trade. Do a trade off for those things that's harboring in your mind. Yes, say who you are, what you've done, accept what you've achieved. And she got another one here. And she says, we have to encourage ourselves and know that we can achieve whatever we desire, and whatever we can achieve is the worst thing. What does she say? Whatever we desire and whatever we can't achieve isn't the worst thing ever. Exactly. It's the ebb and the flow of life. Yes. And like I said, it's not a catastrophe. If it's not a catastrophe, you're good. Don't internalize things like it's a catastrophe. It is not. And because this particular topic, you don't have to go to a therapist. If you have one, you can talk to a person about this, a counselor. This is the work that you can sit and accomplish on your own. Just revert back to saying who you are. Just pat yourself. You know what? Like right now, we're going to take our hands and give ourselves a bravo just because. And we don't need permission. That's why I say bravo to you. People, why you tell people to say bravo? Because I can. And they can say bravo to themselves. Suppose somebody was like so depressed they couldn't even get out the bed yesterday, but they put that foot on the floor this morning. Bravo to you. Oh my God, bravo. Give yourself a bravo just because. And you do not need permission. You have to encourage yourself. You can't allow people to be in your space and look for them to validate you and encourage you. It's not about their validation. You are already who you are. You just have to believe it. Oh my goodness. And here we have a comment by Lady Nina. She says, I love that superfood parents let me get my erasers so I can remove them from my vocabulary too. Yes, 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 and yes. Oh, we got some wonderful folks in the house, and the Harris. The tribe is in the house. Good evening, all. Salute to you, sweetie. And I know your husband might be next to you. Salute to both of you. Thank you for stopping by. This has been so, 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 so good. You have to believe who you are. Don't allow the imposter syndrome to bang on your door and break down the achievements that you've done. Don't allow yourself to push your children over the top to where they become this perfectionist, and then they grow up and they never reach what they want to reach because they have got this thing in them that they're not good enough. They're saying, no, you saying I'm good enough, but I don't feel I'm good enough. This thing can roll over into everything. She says, yep, now you have to start treating me differently. All right. So I'm telling you, let's see. She says, at Mrs. She said at Mrs. All right, they're both. Isn't that something? I love them too. That's a power couple right there. A serious power couple. Real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk. Superfood Parents is saying exactly. Resets are scratch offs are just you talking, you doing it. So you doing it. Laquita, you in the house tonight. You are in the house. That's right. We have to get delivered from this whole syndrome, this whole deep syndrome that has imposed itself, this imposter syndrome that speaks negativity after you've already went to school and achieved and done things, and people see you one way and you don't even believe what they see, and you are everything that you have achieved. So remember, this is not something you're going to find in the DSM. This is not something that's a disorder. This is something we have to talk about, and we'll talk it out with our friends, and so that they can encourage. It's an encouraging thing to understand that you are okay. The perfectionism thing, you're never going to, you're trying to reach a goal that's unattainable. Nothing is 100%. Nothing that in terms of life and how you always racing for the next thing. You always want to move before you even finish one thing. You're going to the next thing, trying to the perfection. Listen, you are awesome, and all that you do. And mistakes are not who you are. They're what we do. They're what we do. They're not who we are. And you just get up and keep it moving. It doesn't matter. And all those voices, the haters, the naysayers, even the voices you might have heard when you were a child, you're going to have to, not have to. It would be nice if you just delete it. Just delete it. Just delete it. And when you start getting those thoughts, you got to cast down that imagination, because you must believe who you are. And I just know that we had a wonderful time here today, and I'm going to do my best to be on. I had a something scheduled for tomorrow, and they text this morning and they had to cancel. And so I know that talking about the imposter syndrome is not something you could talk about in one little shot, right? And so I said, well, I want to know how the imposter syndrome affects intimate relationships. The imposter syndrome shows up in intimate relationships. And so how does that work? How do we segue through that? So far, we talk about, men, women, husband, wives, the issues, the problems, the things we're trying to get through. But sometimes I tell you, we have to identify it to crucify it. It may look like trauma. It may look like depression, but it's some other things we haven't touched on, like the imposter syndrome. What happens when there's a relationship and that imposter syndrome knocks on a husband and wife's door, or someone that's a significant other? How does your partner even recognize it? Because it's a silent little thing. It's a creepy crawler kind of thing. There's no telltale because you mask it. Tomorrow, hopefully, we can get back on here and talk about the imposter syndrome in intimate relationships. Stay tuned for more of Bravo with Sheila Network. I know my co-host is on Thursday. She'll be on doing her thing. We have some great people to talk. I'm still continuing the series of Africa. That one segment that I did on Africa, oh my God, I can't tell you how many people watch that particular thing. And I knew that I had that in my spirit to want to talk about the different things and the different cultures and the different languages and the different everything in Kenya and Ghana and Ivory Coast and all these different places, right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to just start talking about it. And then I said, let me just do a series, because that's another topic. You can't just hit it and quit it. So we're going to be talking, have a great lady that's in these YouTube streets, Karen in Ghana. She's going to be on the platform. I know that I did my DNA, and I've always wanted to talk about certain things about my DNA. And one of the things, I think I have like 25% of Ivory Coast and Ghana in my bloodline. I got Nigeria. I got all these different things. And I said, let me tap in and find out more about these places. So we're going to continue the Africa series. So stay tuned. I'm telling you, we had such a good time when we talked about Ghana. I think it was a month ago. So many people from Africa checked in, left comments, said that they enjoyed the conversation. So I have to keep giving the people what they want. So it's going to be awesome. I'm just trying to continue to do the right thing, stay on my assignment, stay when I'm called to, stay in my lane, right? Stay in my lane, right? I'm not trying to be all over the place. I have to stay to what I'm called to, right? I'm not trying to be everywhere, because I'm not called to everywhere. But like I said, there's a people called to you. Every one of you, there's a people called to you. Just because you're not in these streets, you're not a content creator, you're not a public person, there's still a people called to you. There's purpose in you, and there's something in you that people need. And guess what? It doesn't belong to you. So if you have jewels, we have to drop them off and pass them on. So I'm so happy that you have been here with me. I really appreciate your love and your support. Know that when nothing changes, nothing changes. And what do you have to do? You got to keep it moving. No matter what, just bust a move. You got to keep it moving. No matter what, you just maybe move a foot or arm or leg. Just don't get stuck. Just move, because in that movement, anything is possible to change. Anything is possible to pivot. Anything is possible to shift if you just bust a move. I don't care if you crying this morning, last night, lift your hand up and say, I need help. Pick up the phone, bust a move. Don't allow the enemy to trap you off and let this imposter move to a whole nother dimension in you. Not just imposter syndrome, the imposter period. The one that does not want you to succeed. The one that wants to remind you where you've been and what you didn't do. I'm telling you, you are everything that God has called you to be. You, everything you got is in you that he put in you, and it's for you to be great. So be great today and command your morning. Every single morning, command your morning. I said command your morning. When you get up, start commanding your morning, because guess what? When you wake up, you know that other sloopfoot little no good something wakes up too. And when you're doing something good and positive and helping people, and you got vision in you, that little devil over there wants to cut you off and stop you from moving. He wants to make you feel bad. He wants to remind you of something that's not positive. As soon as you wake up, command your morning. Start moving and doing the right thing. Don't be distracted. There's greatness in you. And I want to see you achieve. I want to see you move forward. I want you to understand. I want to just give you bravos for everything that you're doing. So listen, I love you so much. Stay well, stay well, stay well. Let me just put this comment. I don't know what it says, but I'm going to put it up. Yes. Thank you at Bravo with Sheila. Okay, and our Sean and Superfood Parents and Harris Tribe Media Group and Sir Hill Speaks for sharing your jewels. Yes, all day long. Now, see, those my folks. Those are the people that share the jewels. And it's a lot of other ones up on these streets, but I'm not privy to, I mean, I go to different places, I'm in the chat or whatever, but I'm not called to every platform. I know where I'm called to, and I'll be learning. See, sometimes I'm sitting there learning because things have shifted from when I was a little girl. Things have shifted when I was growing up in the world. Things have shifted with the way women think and how women do and what they don't do. And I just learned so much in these YouTube streets about these new moves and the modern day and the this and the that. And no judgment here. I'm listening. And I'm learning because I got to stay up. I got to stay on step with you young people. I got to stay. Yes, command your morning. Command your morning. Remember to bust a move. That's right, superfood parents. Command your morning. So listen, I'll see you guys soon. Remember, you know what I'm going to say. When nothing changes, nothing changes. I think I'm going to do a soft outro. How about that? Stay well. If you didn't hit that like button, go ahead and hit that like button for me. All right? Ciao. See you again.